What's up, YouTube? Gonna do a collection video today. Haven't done one of these in a long time. At least it feels like a long time. So I'm gonna go with a console that I really love, and that is the Sega Game Gear. My all-time favorite handheld from back in the day. Probably is still up there, just for fun factor and nostalgia reasons. But anyways, it's one that I have a lot of nostalgia and a lot of great memories with, and I really want to share my collection with you guys. It's a system that I'm really passionate about. So in this video, we're going to go over the consoles that I have, some of the accessories, and the games that I have. So stick around and let's do this. So first up are the consoles. I've got two here, and these were fixed by my good friend here on YouTube, MTShark7. He fixed them up for me. Here they are. This one is LED modded. This is an original one that he replaced all the capacitors for, and looks great and sounds great. This is one that he put in the LED mod for, so it works really well. The battery life is incredible. So if you remember, the Game Gear sucked back in the day. These things take 6 AA batteries and would last the equivalent of about 2, maybe 2.5 hours if you were lucky. And then it would suck. Your batteries were dead, and then you'd have to get more batteries if you didn't have the adapter. Myself personally, our family did a lot of traveling, so we were sitting in the back of the car. We played these all the time, and every 2 hours we were stopping and having to buy more batteries. My parents finally got tired of buying us batteries all the time, so they decided to invest in battery packs for us. So that's what I'm going to show you right now. So there are two different kinds of battery packs. There's the one that I use, the Power Back. Looks something like this. Has a little plug on it there, and basically you just charge it up through the DC port on the side. Stick it on the back of your Game Gear, screw it in to the accessory bolt-in thing, and then plug that into your DC in on the Game Gear. This would make your Game Gear last maybe another hour and a half. So it was pretty good in retrospect, I guess. So if you had this in addition to batteries, you were set for about 4 hours in total. So this is what we used most of the time. If we weren't using this, we were generally sitting beside a wall outlet to play games. The second battery pack is kind of similar to the Game Boy one, where it has a little belt clip and you just kind of bring it up to the side. Can you imagine carrying this thing on the side of your belt and just kind of walking around playing Game Gear? I mean, it's pretty ridiculous. I haven't used this one in particular. I was more of the Power Back kind of guy rather than have the belt clip kind of guy. So, but it is cool, and apparently it does work and had about similar battery life as well. Now here's something you probably don't know or don't care. The wall charger for the Game Gear. A lot of people, I'm surprised, do not know this, that this is the exact same AC or DC adapter as the Sega Genesis Model 2. So if you have a Model 2 power adapter, you can play a Game Gear, or if you find a Game Gear adapter, it'll work on your Sega Genesis Model 2. So just a little quick tidbit there if you find one out in the wild, or if you need a power adapter for your Game Gear. Next, we're going to go over the games that I have. This is probably the best part of the Game Gear. The Game Gear is essentially a mini Master System in many ways. In fact, you can even buy a little adapter to play Master System games on your Game Gear. I don't have one of those personally, but I hear they're out there and I hear they work really well. So these are some of the games I played. I didn't play a lot of this first section of games, at least the first three, but pretty much everything else I've played a lot of, and I really enjoy the Game Gear. So here we go. The first one is Fred Couples Golf. No surprise there. That's probably not very good. I don't think I've actually even played that. Joe Montana Football. Not a football guy. Probably didn't really play that one either. Super Monaco GP. I do remember playing this one quite a bit. I think I played the first couple tracks you can get, but never actually won any championships or anything. I wasn't really much of a racing fan back in the day. NBA Jam. This is a must-have on any system that you have. Super Nintendo, Genesis, and Game Gear. You can get it on the Game Gear. Definitely pick it up. A lot of fun. This is the version I played. Now, funny story. I had a friend who had this game, and he also, well, obviously had a Game Gear. I had a Game Gear, and we decided to do a trade. So I traded for this game because I played it at his house all the time, and I traded him my Streets of Rage 2. Or I think it was my Streets of Rage, my first one. Anyways, it was a bit of a bad trade, come to think of it. And I spent many years trying to get my Streets of Rage back after he sold off the collection of everything he had, not to me. So I had to work at getting that game back. But I still really do enjoy this game. I didn't regret my trade at the time. Well, it's only much later when you realize what you did. It kind of hurts a little bit. But still, great game to have. And the last one is probably the game I played the most. If you can't tell, I'm a bit of a baseball fan. And the Majors Pro Baseball was my baseball game of choice. A lot of fun. Played as the Blue Jays all the time. And really good. There's also World Series Baseball. I don't have that one. But I have played it, and I still think this one has a bit of an edge on it, but that's just my opinion. Next up are the Sonic games. Now, where would Sega be, or Sega Game Gear be without Sonic games? Obviously, everyone has one. Probably the most common game you're going to see on the system is Sonic the Hedgehog 2. This came bundled with a lot of the systems. It's like the NES Duck Hunt, Super Mario Bros. Duck Hunt cartridge for the NES. It's everywhere. It's hard not to find, essentially. A lot of people are still overcharging for this. They still think it's worth a lot of money. It's not. It's probably worth about $1. But it is pretty fun. It's hard as heck, though. Not my favorite Sonic game, but it's definitely one to have. Next is probably my favorite Sonic game ever made. I played this one to death, and to this date, I come about this close to beating Dr. Robotnik at the end of the game. And he just nabs me at the end. I can't quite beat it, but I'm pretty close. And that is Sonic Chaos. This is a great game. If you ever find it in the wild, or you find it at a game show or a retro video games shop or anything like that, store, pick it up. It's probably fairly cheap, fairly reasonably priced. Pick it up, play it. It's a lot of fun. And it's quite short, too. You can probably beat it in under an hour. This next one I got as a present many years into my Game Gear lifespan, and I never really got into it. Sonic Chaos kind of overshadowed everything, and I think I was very used to the gameplay style of Sonic Chaos, so this one didn't really quite vibe with me, but it is still a good game, and it is Sonic the Hedgehog Triple Trouble. Don't know much to say about this, don't have much to say about it. It's good, but it's not my favorite Sonic game. The Game Gear had a lot of licensed games as well. So, I mean, what I mean by that is a lot of cartoons had their licenses ported to the Game Gear, and a lot of games were made. A lot of them weren't that great, but some of them were pretty good. But here we're going to go over the ones that I had and played. The first one is Garfield Caught in the Act. This game is hard. It is really, really freaking hard. I never beat it. I never got very far in it. I think I got maybe the third or fourth stage before I just got my ass kicked and I couldn't go any further as a kid. I haven't really gone back to it since, just because I have kind of a poor memory, a poor taste in my mouth with this whole thing. So anyways, it's out there, and it's probably pretty cheap as well. Next is Tom and Jerry the movie. What a weird game. It basically plays like a Tom and Jerry cartoon. Yes, that price sticker says $15 because that's what I paid for it back in the day. Another game that's hard as balls, Tasmania. This was also on the Game Gear, not the Game Gear, the Genesis, and it may be on the Super Nintendo. I'm not sure about that. Never got very far with this game. Maybe 3 or 4 stages, and that's about it. It got really, really hard. Another Tasmania game, Tazz Escape from Mars. This one we played a bit more as a kid. A lot of fun. Much better than the other one, in my opinion. Definitely worth a playthrough, though. Next is Donald Duck and Deep Duck Trouble. I never really got into this game. To be honest, I picked this game up after both of my Game Gears basically bit the dust. I never really had a chance to play it. But from what I hear, it actually is a pretty decent game. And a lot of the Disney games on the Game Gear and a lot of the systems back in the day were actually pretty good. So definitely give this one a shot. Bart Simpson versus the World. Cannot go wrong with some Bart Simpson. Again, not one I played a whole lot, but from what I've played, it's pretty fun. And probably my favorite game on the Game Gear of all time. This isn't the last game by any means, but probably my personal favorite game. It is Legend of Illusion starring Mickey Mouse. Oh my gosh, what a story with this game. Picked it up a long time ago, clearly, as a kid, and spent so many hours with this game trying to beat it over and over, replaying stages, getting lost, not being able to beat certain bosses, and it's just ridiculous. But I remember that feeling of sitting in the corner by the power plug and just playing and playing and playing and finally getting to the final boss and finally beating the final boss. And it was such a great feeling. Going back to it now, it's really, really easy. I can beat it in about 15 to 20 minutes flat. But it's still so good, and sometimes I just need a game just to like jump into and play really quickly and really easily. I'll pop this in and play it. Ever since I got my Game Gear, I've already beaten it twice since I got it back, but several times I did play it on emulation on my computer, and it was just a really, really good game. So if you ever find it, I would highly recommend this game. It's easy, but kind of in like a Kirby's Dream Land kind of way. The first one on the Game Boy, same type of deal with this. Another cartoon game on the system is the Ren and Stimpy Quest for the Shaven Yak. Now, this game is a Ren and Stimpy game. It's weird, it's wacky, it's pretty good. I came from Stimpy's Invention on the Genesis. That's really why I wanted to get this game. It's not really the same kind of game. It's not as fun, but still, it's worth a look. Walt Disney's The Jungle Book on the Game Gear. Another game that's hard as balls. I think I may have got close to the end of the game with this one, but never really got as far as I wanted to. Never actually beat the game as a kid. I haven't gone back to it in many years, but from what I remember, it is really hard. It is fun though, and it's got a great soundtrack. Talespin, one of my favorite cartoons from back in the day. Bought the game. It's okay. It's good. My favorite parts were the shooter sections where you fly the plane and try to shoot all the bad guys down. That was probably my favorite part of this game, but getting up to that point, the levels were pretty cryptic and kind of hard to get through. But it is kind of fun, and again, it's got a great soundtrack. The only version of this game that I've ever managed to beat, and that would be Lion King on the Game Gear. Many hours were spent in the backseat of my parents' car, traveling down highways, visiting all throughout Canada and all throughout the States, playing this game, and I remember that moment of finally beating it. It sticks out in my head, and it's such a good feeling. I think this version's a lot easier than the Genesis version of it. I haven't played the Super Nintendo version, but I remember the Genesis one being really hard and not quite as easy to get into as this one. But if you have a Game Gear that you're able to play, this is the version I would recommend. Now we're going to get to some shooters on the Game Gear. There weren't a whole lot, but there are a few that really, really stand out, and I would definitely highly recommend you check out if you're into that sort of genre. The first one I don't have a whole lot of experience with. I picked it up on a whim, and it's pretty good. It's not great. That's Aerial Assault on the Game Gear. Pretty good. Again, haven't played a whole lot of it, so check out some gameplay online, see if it's something you're interested in, and check it out. The next three I spent countless hours on, so we're going to jump into those. The first is Desert Strike, Return to the Gulf. Everyone's heard of the Desert Strike, Jungle Strike, Soviet Strike, part of the same genre. You're flying around, destroying buildings, destroying objectives, and saving POWs, and bringing them back to your base ship. And it's basically that, cycle, rinse, repeat, and it's still pretty fun. I remember playing this with my friend, passing the Game Gear back and forth, and trying to get as far as we can. I still have codes that are in the case, and I think we got to level 4 or 5 from what I remember. And it was pretty hard at that point, and we never got much further than that. So, but definitely is a cool game. Another game that I poured countless hours in and actually did manage to beat. I don't know how. I remember beating it. I can't get close to beating it anymore. And that is G-Lock Air Battle. This is kind of like a first-person in-cockpit shooter where you're flying straight and you have certain objectives like blow up so many fighter jets, so many boats, so many tanks. Go, and you have to shoot down enemy missiles coming at you and avoid enemy fire from behind. So it's pretty intense. Definitely not for the faint of heart, and it can take a bit to get into, but it is definitely worth your time if you can get into it. And probably the best shooter on the system would be Halley Wars or Haley Wars. Not quite sure how to say it. Holly Wars? Because Hall and E? I don't know. Definitely check it out. More of your standard stereotypical shooter where you start to the bottom, go to the top, vertical scrolling shooter. A lot of fun. Also really, really hard. I can only get to about stage 3 or 4 before I get my butt kicked and I have to move on to something else. But definitely worth playing. Pick it up. It's really cheap right now too on eBay. So pick it up while you can. There are a couple of puzzle games on the Game Gear. Never really my genre of choice, but I did play a couple of them. And surprisingly, some of these puzzle games are really hard to find. Columns is not really one that's hard to find. It's very out there, very available. That one actually I don't have. It's got one I got to pick up in a couple, maybe in a couple of weeks. I'll pick that one up. But these two I have that I played a lot apparently are quite uncommon. I'm not going to say rare, but they're uncommon / hard to find / a little bit expensive. So if you ever find them out in the wild, keep your eyes out. The first one is Gearworks. This also came out on the Game Boy, but it's obviously not color like this one is. But it is really, really fun. You basically are given a starting gear and an ending gear and a bunch of gears in a toolbox, and you've got to basically connect all the gears to get everything to turn the way you need it to turn. Not easy. It is really hard, but it is worth it if you can pick it up, if you like puzzle games. Next is Baku Baku, and you probably haven't heard of this game. It's almost like a competitive Tetris game where you have to match animals with their food in certain orders to clear your screen, and the faster you clear them, the more stuff gets dumped on your opponent. And it's kind of like a JRPG kind of way, in that you meet with other trainers, and that's how you basically battle. Is through basically Tetris-like gameplay. So definitely want to check out if you can find it. Platformers and beat-em-ups were huge on the system. They were really easy to make and really easy to port from other consoles. So I picked up a lot of them, and actually they're probably my favorite genre on the console, on the platform. So here we go. This one I played so much of. I know I'm going to say that about a lot of games, but this one I played a lot and did beats, and it is Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie, on Game Gear. Now this isn't your typical like run around and beat up a bunch of things. It's more of like a fighting style game where you pick your ranger and then you're put into a stage, and you have the Putty Patrol come at you, and then you have kind of like a mid boss and an end boss, all on the same screen. You kind of move a little bit left and right in kind of an arena, and that's pretty much it. And it's basically just kind of like a survival, go as far as you can, and then once you beat the boss, then you go into the Megazord and fight a larger version of the same boss that you just fought. But still a lot of fun. Really hard though if you can't get into it. The D-pad on the Game Gear isn't the best, and it's kind of hard to pull off moves. And I mean, the Game Gear only has 2 buttons, so it's a combination of 1, 2, and both of buttons at the same time. And literally all you have to do is hit like jump and use both buttons at the same time, and basically kind of use like your super attack on them all the time. And that's kind of how you go through stages. At least that's how I did. Jurassic Park, great game on the system. More like walk slowly and shoot dinosaurs and get to the end and do the boss battle. Never did beat it, although I did really enjoy the time that I did spend with it. Definitely one to pick up if you can find it out there. It's different than a lot of the other versions of Jurassic Park you're going to find out there. I think it's unique to the Game Gear, so definitely check it out. X-Men, another beat-em-up brawler on the system, platformer. Pretty good. Not as good as the Genesis versions, but I mean, it's pretty good, and I love the X-Men, so I mean, maybe that kind of taints my my image a little bit. Judge Dredd, never actually played it that much. I think I turned it on and played through the first stage. Seemed okay, but I mean, check out some footage, see if it's something you're interested in. The first Spider-Man on the Game Gear. It sucks. It sucks. Don't buy this one. Spider-Man Return of the Sinister Six. A bit better than the first one. Could be worth checking out if you're into Spider-Man. Probably the 2 best beat-em-ups on the system, hands down. Streets of Rage on the Game Gear. I believe Streets of Rage 2 is also in the Game Gear. I don't have that one though. Finally managed to track down another copy of this and play it. Still one of those games I can't beat, but still love playing over and over and over. And probably my favorite game on the system, aside from Legend of Illusion, I should say, with Mickey Mouse, Battletoads. This is my copy of Battletoads that I've had my entire life. This is how I played Battletoads. This is how I can't beat Battletoads. I got to, I think, I get to where like the snakes are going through, and you've got to like time all your jumps and stuff. I can't get past that part. Still, even on the NES, I can't get past that part. But this is how I played Battletoads back in the day, and it was great, and I loved it, and I still love it, and probably will never beat it, but it's one of those like dream goals, I guess. And last but not least, there were actually some RPGs put out to the system. Now, the Game Gear is probably not known for their RPGs like Game Boy is, or the DS or whatever like that, but it is actually, they do actually have some, surprisingly. So the first one is Defenders of Oasis. I'm not an RPG guy, so I can't tell you really anything about these, but here they are. Go and look them up, try it out. The last one is Shining Force, The Sword of Hyah, I think is how it says. The writing's kind of small to read. But it is out there. Shining Force, I hear, is a great series. Go check it out. Go check some gameplay, some reviews and stuff. See if it's something you're into, and go check it out. These games aren't expensive, which is nice. And I mean, by not expensive, I mean under 20 bucks. 20 bucks or under. If you're really into the RPGs and you like the Game Gear, check them out. So that's going to do it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. If you watched the whole thing, be sure to hit that like button and give me a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think of the Game Gear in general. Love to hear your thoughts, and I will see you guys in the next one. See ya.